Hello friends, good afternoon and welcome to EduSat Live Lectures. Dear friends, today in chemical thermodynamics we will be talking about spontaneous reaction and free energy. To discuss this topic we have with us our subject expert Dr. Shashank Deep. Dr. Shashank Deep is Associate Professor in Department of Chemistry in Indian Institute of Technology, New Delhi. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Sir to our studios and request him to start the lecture. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Amritpal. So, a very good afternoon, students. Today I am going to talk about spontaneous reaction and free energy. In the last few lectures, we discussed about first law, second law and third law of thermodynamics. And then I introduced terms like your internal energy, enthalpy and entropy. I also discussed about why entropy was introduced. It is basically introduced to find a state function, to get a state function which can tell you about a spontaneous reaction, whether a reaction will take place or not. I will now extend this to define few new parameters, and I will tell you what is the need of that. So, in the last lecture I told you that for a spontaneous process, for example A to B, entropy should increase, entropy total entropy should increase. If total entropy increases, then a reaction is spontaneous process. What I mean by total entropy is that entropy of system plus surrounding should increase. So, entropy of system may decrease, but total entropy should increase, and then only a reaction is spontaneous. The problem with this entropy thing is that we have defined a spontaneous process in terms of total entropy. What we need to do is, we need to define a spontaneity of the process in terms of various thermodynamic parameters of the system, not system plus surrounding. And that is why we are trying to go towards a physical parameter which can define your spontaneous nature of a reaction in terms of system. So, for that what we are going to do is, we start with this equation which is Clausius inequality, that ds system plus ds surrounding greater than equal to 0, and then express this in terms of system. So, we can do it in the following way, that just take this ds surrounding to right hand side, what you will get is minus ds surrounding. So, ds system is greater than equal to minus ds surrounding for a spontaneous process. And now we know that ds surrounding is dq surrounding by t. So, we can express this system like this, that ds system is greater than equal to minus dq surrounding by t. And we know that dq surrounding is nothing but minus dq system. So, heat lost by surrounding is equal to heat gained by the system, or heat gained by the surrounding is equal to heat lost by the system. So, we can simply write minus dq surrounding as dq system, and now you have ds system is greater than equal to dq system by t. Now, look at this expression, you can see that now everything is defined in terms of system. So, now we have equation which can define a spontaneous process in terms of system. Just if you simplify this, what we are going to get is dq minus tds is less than equal to 0. So, this is now equation which we are going to use if we want to define a spontaneous process. Now, a spontaneous process happens under different conditions. First condition which I am going to discuss is when u and v is constant. U and v are constant. That can happen when you take an isolated system. So, in that case, if I suppose take at constant volume and assume that there is no additional work done, in that case we can write dq minus Tds as dq at constant volume minus Tds is less than equal to 0. And now we know that dq at constant volume is equal to du, and so we can simply write dqv is equal to du. So, now we have du minus Tds is less than equal to 0. Now, you see that here now we are able to express a spontaneous process in terms of state functions, in terms of a state function. This is this only true when you are talking about at constant volume. Suppose I take at constant u, in that case this du is equal to 0. So, we are left with only this term minus Tds is less than equal to 0, and just if you just remove this minus part, ds at constant u and v should be greater than equal to 0. This gives us condition for a spontaneous process in terms of system at constant u and v. What we are saying here, that entropy increases during a spontaneous, entropy of a system increases during a spontaneous process when we take u and v constant. For isolated system, we know that uv is constant. So, this expression is true for an isolated system. Now, think about equilibrium. What will happen in equilibrium? In equilibrium, you will get this equal, this becomes equal to when ds at constant u and v is equal to 0. So, what is happening? Entropy is increasing during a spontaneous process and equilibrium is achieved when there is highest entropy. So, in an isolated system, we can say that equilibrium state is the state where there is highest entropy. So, this is the first condition which we discussed, and this is only true when we have a system at constant u and v. Now, same equation, and we are talking about a spontaneous process at constant s and v. In that case, again we can write at constant volume, no additional work, dq as dqv minus Tds is less than equal to 0, and dqv is du minus Tds is less than equal to 0. And since now we are talking about at constant s, in that case your ds is 0. So, this whole terms becomes 0, and what you are left with is du at constant s and v is less than equal to 0. So, what you are saying here, under constant s and v, we have a different equation which defines a spontaneous process. What is the equation? Is that internal energy decreases during a spontaneous process. This is just opposite to your entropy. Entropy increases during a spontaneous process at constant u and v, but internal energy decreases during a spontaneous process under condition of constant s and v. So, at constant s and v, equilibrium state is the state where there is lowest energy, lowest u. So, till now we have discussed two different conditions. First is your constant u and v, and the second is your constant s and v. But most processes do not take place under those conditions. They take place either at constant volume and temperature or at constant pressure and temperature. constant temperature means T system is equal to T surrounding. So, again let us take this equation at constant V and T, your dQV is equal to du. So, du minus Tds is equal to du minus, since T is constant we can take this inside and this is simply d Ts. So, now you have a du minus Ts. If you take this and try to get this term, you can get this term du minus Ts constant V and T less than equal to 0. So, now you see this, the difference between these two terms will give you a parameter which can define a spontaneous process under constant V and T. Okay? And this term u minus Ts has been given name A, which is Helmholtz free energy. So, d of A constant V and T less than equal to 0. Now, see this, how this term evolved. What we wanted? We wanted to define a spontaneous process at constant V and T, and what we ended up that a parameter called u minus Ts will decrease during a spontaneous process, and this is given the name Helmholtz free energy, since this is the difference between two energy terms u and Ts. So, that is equal to A. Now, what will happen at equilibrium? This will be equal to 0, and so at equilibrium the state with lowest A, state has lowest A under constant V and T. So, this is first important equation which can be applied, because most of the reaction either takes place at constant volume and temperature or constant your pressure and temperature. Now, let us go for constant pressure and temperature. Okay, so, what we define? A term A which is equal to u minus Ts, and this is known as Helmholtz free energy, since this is a difference between two different energy terms u and Ts. What happens at constant pressure and constant pressure? Under constant pressure, dq can be written as dq at constant pressure minus Tds is less than equal to 0. So, this is a condition for a spontaneous process, and we know that dq at constant pressure is dH. So, now we can write whole equation as dH minus Tds less than equal to 0. Now, again you see this is this expression is a function of state functions HTS. So, now we are able to express a spontaneous process at constant pressure. Now, you can think of, if I take constant enthalpy, what will happen? You have minus Tds left is less than equal to 0, which means Tds is greater than equal to 0 or ds is greater than equal to 0, and that only happens when enthalpy and pressure is constant. So, we have another condition, when enthalpy and pressure is constant, entropy increases during a spontaneous process. Now, you can think in another way, if I take suppose S constant, in that case your minus Tds is 0, and in that case you can write delta H dH at constant S and P is less than equal to 0. What does that mean is enthalpy decreases during a spontaneous process under the condition of constant entropy and pressure. Now, final thing is at constant pressure and temperature. Right now, we have seen what happened at constant pressure, but think about at constant pressure and temperature. In that case, you can simply write dH minus Tds as equal to dH minus differential of Ts term, because you know that S dt term will be 0 at constant temperature. Okay. So, that tells you, this expression tells you that differential of this two terms, difference of these two terms H minus Ts will give you criteria for a spontaneous reaction at constant pressure and temperature. So, this term is very important, H minus Ts. Most of the reactions takes place at constant pressure and temperature, and that is why there is a significance of this term H minus Ts, which is known as G or Gibbs free energy. So, differential of G at constant pressure and temperature is less than equal to 0. What does that mean? That at constant pressure and temperature, G decreases during a spontaneous process, and also at equilibrium the state has lowest G under constant pressure and temperature. So, what we just saw is that at constant pressure and temperature, G decreases for a spontaneous process, and since most of the reaction takes place at constant pressure and temperature, and so G is a very important term which is known as Gibbs free energy because this is a difference between two energies. So, certainly this is going to be an energy term, and we will see why this is known as Gibbs free energy. Now, once we know that what is G, we can calculate change in free energy. So, G is equal to H minus Ts. So, dG will be equal to dH minus TdS minus SdT, and at constant temperature your SdT part is 0. So, what you left with is dG equal to dH minus TdS. So, since mostly reaction or processes takes place at room temperature, temperature is constant. So, generally we use this term to calculate change in free energy. So, dG is equal to dH minus TdS. So, there are two terms, this is enthalpy term and this is entropy term, and difference of this will give you dG. Now, when we say reaction is favorable or unfavorable, or a process is favorable or unfavorable, a reaction is favored when delta G is less than 0, or delta G will less than 0 can happen due to an increase in the entropy of the system. In that case, delta S is greater than 0, and when T delta S will be greater than delta H, your delta G will be less than 0, and so reaction is favored. On the other hand, a reaction is favored when there is a decrease in the enthalpy of the system, since delta G will be negative when delta H will be negative, or delta H is negative and greater than T delta S. Now, a reaction is spontaneous when delta G is negative. Now, delta G is negative, delta G may be negative due to these two factors. So, see the scheme A, delta G is negative, delta H is positive, whereas minus T delta S is negative. So, you see that this delta G is negative due to entropy component, not due to enthalpy component. Here enthalpy is positive. So, when delta G is negative due to entropy component only, that process is known as your entropy driven process. Now, in scheme B you can see that delta G is negative not because of entropy term, but because of enthalpy term. And when delta G is negative due to enthalpy term, that process is called your enthalpy driven process. So, A is your entropy driven process and B is your enthalpy driven process. Now, when a forward reaction will be favored, when a reverse reaction will be favored, will depend on the sign of delta G. Now, consider a reaction R going to P. Okay? You can think of a exothermic reaction. In this case, delta H is negative. Suppose delta S is positive, okay. This will always be negative, delta G will always be negative. So, if enthalpy decreases, entropy increases, delta G is going to be negative and product will always be favored. Product will always be favored, and this is called both enthalpy and entropy driven process. Now, if delta G is positive, means endothermic reaction, and delta S is negative, in that case delta G will always be positive and your product is not favored, reactant is favored. When delta G H is negative, exothermic process, and delta S is negative, in that case your delta G can be positive or negative, and that will be temperature dependent reaction. So, if delta G is negative, that can happen when enthalpy component is greater than entropy component, and that case is called enthalpy driven process. Enthalpy driven process. But delta S, when delta S component is greater, delta G will be positive, and in that case reactants will be favored. On increase in temperature, your delta S component becomes bigger, and at higher temperature only reactant will be favored. Now, if delta H is positive, means endothermic reaction, delta S is positive, in that case again delta G can be positive or negative. So, delta S is will predominate at higher temperature, delta H will predominate at lower temperature. So, at higher temperature your product will be favored. Now, take a case of solubility of a salt. What happens when we add salt to a solvent? Entropy always increases because multiple configuration will be achieved. So, mixing always leads to increase in entropy, okay. And that is why dissolving ammonium nitrate in water is spontaneous, although reaction is endothermic. So, this reaction is endothermic, dissolving ammonium nitrate in water. Reaction is endothermic. So, this is not an enthalpy driven reaction, this is spontaneous because of entropy factor, and that is why it is called entropy driven reaction. Now, insolubility of salts, some salts are insoluble, although there is an increase in entropy on solubilization. So, I already told you that when you put a salt, entropy increases. Still some salts are insoluble because in this case enthalpy factor predominates, and so reaction does not take place. In that case, increase in temperature will increase the solubility. So, now we saw that delta G has two components, enthalpy and entropy, and it depends on, delta G is negative, depends on what is the value of delta H and T delta S. Typically, we can measure delta G, delta H and delta S can be measured. That they also gives you a mechanistic insight into the process. For example, a reaction. In generally what happens? If there is a bond formation or bond breaking, delta H will not be 0. So, suppose you are breaking a bond, in that case you need to supply heat to break a bond, and that is a endothermic process. On the other side, when you form a bond, then there is heat released. So, bond formation is always an exothermic process. So, delta H will depend on how many bonds are formed and how many bonds are broken. If bonds are formed is more favorable, then delta H will be negative. On the other hand, delta S is related to configurational freedom. So, suppose your configurational freedom increases, in that case entropy will increase, and also it is related to water ordering. So, suppose in the reaction your reactant side water is more ordered, when it goes to product water is less ordered, in that case your delta S will be positive, and so the measurement of delta H and delta S can tell you which process is important for making a reaction spontaneous. So, the enthalpy contribution to free energy can be due to ionic or hydrogen bonds, electrostatic interaction or van der Waals interaction. So, if these interactions are formed, means it is an exothermic process. If these interactions are broken, it means that is endothermic process. Entropy contribution has just two components, conformational entropy and solvation entropy. This will depend on system and environment. So, we have to look at the molecules and solvent and also environment to look at entropy of the reaction. For enthalpy driven process, bond formation, bond dissociation is important, and for entropy driven process, solvent plays an important part. Thank you. So, in the last lecture we discussed how this free energy term came into picture. Free energy is basically defined as H minus Ts, and that comes because that can define a spontaneous process at constant pressure and temperature, and we know that most reactions or processes takes place at constant pressure and temperature, and that is why there is a need to define terms like G and A. Now, in the first law of thermodynamics, we define U as a function of du as sum of these two terms dq plus dw. U is a state function and q and w is path function. Now, what we want to do to utilize these equations to full extent, we need to define du in terms of state functions, and that we can do by using the second law of thermodynamics. What we know, for a reversible process, when no extra work is done, there is no extra work, in that case we can simply write dq reversible is equal to Tds. Okay? This is for reversible process. We know that ds is equal to dq reversible by T. And if there is no extra work, then in that case we can simply write dw reversible is equal to minus Pdv. So, this is pressure of the gas, this is not external pressure, since we can write like this, since this is a reversible process. Okay. Now, if we put these things into first law of thermodynamics, we can get a term du is equal to Tds minus Pdv. Now, you can see that this equation, in this equation, now everything is a state function, and that is why it is very important. Okay? Du is equal to Tds minus Pdv, and generally we write u is a function of S and V. Okay? U is a function of S and V. Now, think of this, that this Tds, dq is equal to Tds only for a reversible process, and we know that minus Pdv is equal to dw when the process is reversible. Now, question is whether this equation holds true for irreversible process. This equation holds true for irreversible also, although we derived it for a reversible process. The reason is this, that u is a state function. So, it will depend on only on initial and final state. It will not depend whether you carry out the process in irreversible process, in a irreversible way or reversible way. Okay? So, TdS is equal to dq only for a reversible, and dW is minus PdV only for a reversible, but du will always be equal to TdS minus PdV. Now, PdV may change for a reversible or irreversible, TdS may change for reversible or irreversible, but sum of this is going to be same whether it is carried out reversibly or irreversibly, and so this equation is also true for an irreversible process. Now, till now we have expressed u in terms of du in terms of differential of state functions. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to calculate dH in terms of a state function, dg in terms of a state function, and dA in terms of a state function. And the way we can do is dH, we know that dH is equal to d u plus Pv, since h is equal to u plus Pv. Now, if you expand this, what you are going to get? You are going to get du plus Pdv plus Vdp. Okay? And we know that right now we just now derived du is equal to TdS minus PdV. And so, now we can write dH is equal to TdS minus PdV plus PdV plus Vdp, and minus PdV, PdV cancels out, and we are left with dH is equal to TdS plus Vdp. Now, you see both are positive quantity here, and now H is function of S and P. Now, go and calculate, let us go and calculate Gibbs free energy change. We just defined G is equal to H minus Ts. So, we can write dG is equal to dH minus Ts. When we expand this, we can write dH minus TdS minus SdT, and just right now we express dH as TdS plus Vdp, and so we can write dG is equal to TdS plus Vdp minus TdS minus SdT. Now, TdS cancels out. So, what we are left with is Vdp minus SdT, and so G is function of pressure and temperature, and you just recall that G is a criteria for a spontaneous reaction at constant pressure and temperature. Similarly, we can express Helmholtz free energy change, dA is equal to d u minus Ts, or dA is equal to du minus TdS minus SdT. Du just we defined as TdS minus PdV, and so TdS cancels out. What we are left with is dA is equal to minus PdV minus SdT. So, now we have 4 equations in which we have defined A, G, H and U in terms of a state function, Now, let us go and think about this. We know that dG is related to a spontaneous process, G decreases during a spontaneous process, and this is true at constant temperature and pressure. So, we write dG at constant temperature is pressure is less than or equal to 0. Just now we derived dG is equal to minus SdT plus Vdp. So, if we apply at constant temperature and pressure, what we get here? What we get is this term becomes 0 since temperature is constant, this term also becomes 0 since pressure is constant. So, dG at constant temperature and pressure is equal to 0. Isn't these two are quite opposite thing? This is telling that dG at constant temperature pressure is equal to 0, and here it is G decreases during a spontaneous process. Why there is a dichotomy? The difference is because in this equation we have assumed that there is no extra work, there is no extra work. Okay? So, dg not only equal to minus sdt plus vdp, it is different when extra work is done. So, suppose extra or what we know as useful work is involved. This can be of any type, any non-expansion work. For example, electrical work, elongation work. If you are going up, then MGDH type of work, going down, similar kind of work, and also all cellular processes involve non-expansion work. All cellular processes involve non-expansion work. So, in case of extra work, dg at constant pressure and temperature is not going to be equal to 0, okay? And that contributes to a spontaneity, that contributes to a spontaneity. Now, what we are going to look at, that if extra work is involved, what will be the equation? The equation will be simply you add dWe to all these equations. So, what we initially derived is du is equal to Tds minus Pdv, ds is equal to Tds plus Vdp, dA is equal to minus SDT minus Pdv, and dg is equal to Vdp minus SDT. So, that is only true when there is no extra work. When there is extra work, you will get this term. And what does that mean? For a spontaneous process, when I told you that dg at constant p and t is less than equal to 0, what does that mean? You see here, at constant pressure this is 0, at constant temperature this is 0. So, dg at constant pressure and temperature is equal to the extra work dWe, and dWe should be less than 0, should be the less than 0, and this is a criteria for a spontaneous process. Okay, now let us discuss about Helmholtz free energy for one more time. dq minus Tds is less than equal to 0. This is your the equation, original equation to decide about a spontaneous process. Suppose if I take a reversible process, in that case this becomes equal to 0, and dq can be written as du minus dw. So, now you have an equation dq minus dw minus Tds is equal to 0, and that is true for a reversible process. Okay? And so, you have dW is equal to simply du minus Tds, and we know that du minus Tds equal to dA at constant temperature. What does that mean? What does that mean is that dW is equal to dA when process is carried out reversibly. And we know that in a reversible process, the work done by the system is maximum. So, maximum work done can be calculated by measuring the change in A, by measuring the change in A, and that gives significance to this term A. So, this not only provides the criteria for a spontaneous change, this also helps in calculating maximum work done. Now, think about the other things which we discussed. Gibbs free energy. In case of extra work, we can write dg is equal to minus SDT plus Vdp plus dW additional reversible. Now, at constant temperature and pressure, you have this term equal to 0, this term equal to 0. So, dg is equal to dW additional reversible or extra work. So, we can calculate the amount of extra work by measuring delta G, or vice versa. We can measure delta G by measuring extra work done. So, now what is the application of delta G calculation? Okay. This can tell you about feasibility of a reaction. So, a reaction is spontaneous or not, a reactant is favored or product is favored. So, delta G is negative means your reaction product is favored, and delta G is positive means reactants are favored. We can also calculate maximum work from a reaction or from a process. So, if you carry out a process, we can calculate maximum work by calculating delta G or delta A. And then finally, we can also calculate the change of equilibrium pressure and temperature which change in a physical parameter like height. So, for example, with the height, what will happen to equilibrium pressure? What will happen to vapor pressure? What will happen to vapor pressure? So, these three are very important applications of delta G calculation. Now, I will show you with one example, for example, EMF work. In that case, again we can write dG is equal to minus SDT plus PdV, VdP, sorry, this is VdP plus dWe. At constant pressure and temperature this will 0 and VdP will also be 0 at constant pressure and temperature, and so this is equal to dW extra, and that can be calculated using this equation minus NF dE. So, EMF work is equal to minus NF dE, where F is Faraday and dE is change in voltage. So, delta G at constant P and T is equal to minus F NF delta E. Now, you see that we have already used delta G. We know that for a spontaneous reaction, G should decrease or delta G should be negative. What does that mean? If you use this equation, this means that this delta E should increase or E should increase during a spontaneous process, since this comes with a negative sign. So, delta E at constant pressure and temperature should be greater than equal to 0. So, if we know the EMF value for a reaction, and if during a reaction E increases, EMF increases, then that is a spontaneous process. But in a reaction where delta E is less than equal to 0, in that case your reactant is favored, and that can be used to explain displacement of metal from metal salts. Okay? So, for example, here you see when you add zinc to a copper salt, your delta E is positive. Okay? Delta E is positive. It means zinc can replace copper from its salt. Zinc can replace copper from its salt, and so zinc is a more active metal. Okay? And that is what this says, that a more active metal can displace a less active one from a solution of a salt, and that is only because of your delta G conditions. And again, active metals are all attacked by acids. Active metals are all attacked by acids. So, reactions can be explained using this delta. Ionic reactions can be explained using by looking at the value of delta E. If delta E is positive, then reaction is spontaneous. Okay. We can also calculate work, maximum work from a fuel cell. For example, if we are trying to make fuel cell from CH4 or C8H8, this is the value. So, maximum work delta A is equal to minus 814, and delta A for combustion of this thing is minus 5285. So, what we know that maximum work will be equal to, if we burn CH4, then maximum work which we can achieve is equal to 814 kilojoule per mole, while in this case this will be equal to 5285. We can also calculate the useful work, extra work, and that can be done by calculating delta G of combustion for CH4 or delta for C8H18 octane. Okay. So, this is minus 818 and this is minus 5296 kilojoule. So, octane can give you more heat per mole, maximum work per mole. Now, we can also see what happens in cellular work. Okay? What happens inside cell is this glucose when get oxidized, it gives you CO2 plus 6H2O, and delta G for reaction is minus 2879. Now, this can be used to make peptide bonds. A peptide bond requires 70 kilojoule of work. So, a maximum of 170 peptide bonds can be formed. So, this is the way your cell utilizes energy for carrying out a different kind of works, cellular work. Now, suppose we go up, what happens? Can we write delta G? Yes, we can write. So, delta G is equal to minus SDT plus VDP plus mgdh. So, extra work is this mgdh. Okay? Extra work is mgdh. At constant temperature this becomes 0, what we left is VDP plus mgdh. Okay? We know that at equilibrium delta G is 0. So, in that case VDP is equal to minus mgdh, and that equation can be used to calculate effect of height on equilibrium pressure. Similarly, at constant pressure we can make this 0, and then we can see the effect of height on equilibrium temperature. So, using this we can look at effect of height and pressure, effect of height on equilibrium pressure or temperature. Now, how we can do that? So, look at this equation. dG at constant temperature is VDP plus mgdh. At equilibrium this is equal to 0. So, VDP is minus mgdh, and then dP is equal to m by V, that is rho g dh, and dP is equal to minus Pm by RT g dh dP by. So, you get this equation, and that tells you that increase in height will correspond to a decrease in pressure. Boiling point of, so if there is a so there will be decrease in pressure, and we know that boiling point of water is raised if pressure above water is increased, it is lowered if pressure is reduced. This explains why water boils at 70 degrees Celsius up in the Himalaya. Similarly, we can discuss about thermodynamics of a rubber band. In that case, extra work will be FDL. dG can be written like FDP minus SDT at plus FDL. Now, you can look at the effect of temperature on the length, effect of temperature on the length at the equilibrium, and that is how we can use this equation, since we know that dG is equal to 0 at equilibrium. In summary, delta G measurement at constant temperature and pressure gives extra work and vice versa. So, we have just seen that when we do the EMF kind of work, we can delta G is equal to basically minus at constant pressure and temperature is equal to minus NF delta E. So, delta G can give you delta E, and vice versa, that delta E, if we can measure delta E for that ionic reaction by doing electrochemistry, we can calculate delta G. Calculation of extra work can tell us about the direction of process. So, for example, we have seen that if delta E is greater than 0, a reaction will be spontaneous, and that is why active metal can replace a less active metal from its salt, and your active one is also attacked by acid, whereas copper, silver, gold, those are non-active metal, not active metal, and they are not attacked by your acid. The last thing is that delta G is equal to 0 can be used to know effect of various parameters on equilibrium temperature and pressure. So, we know that at equilibrium delta G is equal to 0. At equilibrium delta G is equal to 0. So, VdP plus SdT, VdP minus SdT plus dWe will be 0 at equilibrium. So, suppose we take temperature constant, then SdT terms becomes 0, and then you can look at the effect of pressure on the extra work. And if we take at constant pressure, your VdP term will be 0, and in that case we can see the effect of your temperature on your extra work. Thank you very much.
On that note, I would like to thank sir for this very enriching discussion, and I hope, dear friends, that you have come to understand the concept of free energy and spontaneous reactions. On that note, thank you, dear friends, for watching our show. Stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you.